Okay, so I really swear that I want to fly inaugural flights with other airlines too, but United has just had some big ones recently and they know how to throw a party. So we're back today with the first and only ever connection between North America and Christchurch by a North American carrier. Air New Zealand actually used to fly Christchurch to LAX until 2006, and American Airlines had plans to fly that same route in 2020, but those plans never materialized. Yada yada yada, and here we are in SFO for the route that did finally materialize. I attempted to upgrade from economy on this reservation, but Polaris had too many seats blocked out for my upgrade to clear. Fortunately, I did clear upgrade into premium economy, so it'll be fun to try that product out as well, since it's been a while since I tried that product out on this channel. Also, because this year I've flown a United inaugural in economy and business class, so it'll be fun to look at the amenities that we get in the premium economy cabin. I got in line for the Premier 1K check-in, but it didn't take long before the line stopped moving. Apparently, the visa approval systems went down, so any passengers traveling to a country requiring a visa were unable to check in. This included us, since US passport holders need an electronic travel approval to enter New Zealand. They got it moving only for it to shut down again. Eventually, they were able to get one destination working at a time, and after over an hour, we got our boarding pass for Christchurch and went off through security. Now we're on to the G gates, which house United and its closest Star Alliance partners, as United's SFO growth has forced some Star Alliance carriers to the A gates, which isn't directly connected within security at this time. Through security and to the right, we find the Polaris Lounge, but since I'm not holding a business class ticket, I can't gain access even with Star Alliance Gold status, a topic that typically gets the front desk lounge employees yelled at here. I do, however, get access to the United clubs, as does anyone else with Star Alliance Gold status on an international ticket. SFO has 3 United clubs, one here in the International Terminal's G gates, and 2 in their domestic home in Terminal 3's E and F gates. About halfway down the G gates, we reach the United club for these gates. I do wonder if they'll look at slightly extending the hours of United's SFO lounges, as there's more and more flights at or near midnight, but they still close the International Terminal's lounges at 11. This specific lounge at SFO actually invokes some mixed emotions. It was formerly the global first United lounge back when United still had 3-class service and before the opening of the Polaris Lounge here. It's also been closed for a few of my qualifying trips, so I haven't actually visited it before, even though I've flown United out of SFO over 100 times. This lounge seems to have gotten rid of a lot of the decorations that they had back in the global first days for whatever reason. Not quite sure why, considering it's not like they moved them to the new Polaris Lounge, so I don't get why they couldn't have stayed here and kept this space looking at its best. I do like the photos on the wall of the city and United Airlines over the years. I find the views interesting as they're filtered with gated shutters, but also because we're on the lower level of the terminal. I was also surprised to see that there was still seats available despite this being the busiest time of day. My assumption is that because this is one of 3 United clubs, and also because of the international passengers in business and first class getting to use the Polaris Lounge, that this is mostly just for Star Alliance Gold passengers traveling in economy. So I'm guessing overcrowding doesn't affect this lounge, as it seems like the Polaris Lounge actually was a bit more crowded at this time of day. At the very least, though, it was still fun to see a bit of special food set up for the inaugural. The Polaris Lounge had its own celebration party, so I appreciated them showing some love to the United Club as well. Because the whole check-in process was taking all day long, we didn't have too long to spend in the lounge before I had to adventure over to the celebration, which started with not just the gate, but the airplane as well, branded as the Kiwi Cruiser alongside that silver frond. The plane actually arrived 2 days prior from Singapore and then just sat here, presumably to get the decals put on and make sure it was 100% ready for this journey. Down at the gate, festivities were in preparation but started a bit late, presumably since everyone that had to check in here at SFO was caught up with the visa system crashing. In the meantime, they had set up the stage, hung some decorations from the ceiling, and had some gentle Kiwi guitar music setting the ambiance. They also had similar snacks to the United Club, but with a bit larger of a spread. I grabbed a little bit of food and waited for the rest of the celebration to start up in the meantime. Eventually, the crew arrived in style. The United and SFO execs showed up in a little bit less of style, and then we were given our souvenir pins before that full celebration began. To begin, we were treated to some traditional New Zealand dances, including the famous haka dance, which was incredible, but loud enough that I have to wonder what everyone in the terminal must be thinking about all this yelling coming from gate G1. Then was speeches from United's SFO execs, Patrick Quayle, the guy in charge of global route planning, and Jeremy Clark Watson, the Consul General of New Zealand down in Santa Monica. All of them were so excited to have this first connection to New Zealand's South Island. We also learned that about 90 years ago, SFO had 18 flights per day, and 17 of those 18 were United, showing the long-standing cooperation between United Airlines and SFO. Before long, the ribbon was cut and boarding began, and I was officially the first name on the list to not receive the business class upgrade, so premium economy it is. Although, it was just mean to have to walk past the aft cabin of Polaris to reach Premium Plus, United's premium economy, which is a seat used amongst multiple airlines for their premium economy classes in a 2-3-2 setup. I chose to go with seat 20 Alpha, 20A, which is a bulkhead seat. I prefer the bulkhead seats in this setup for reasons that I'll mention shortly. As we know, we will get some sort of free goodies for the inaugural, but the further you go back, the less goodies you'll get. But it seems as if the only thing that we didn't get in Premium Plus that Polaris did was the custom pajamas. Looking around the seat, United goes with a deep purple color theme for the premium economy. The headrest is comfortable and adjustable to help prop your head up for sleep, in addition to the seat, which is plenty wide enough to spread out. The left side has a tray table that slides out with the pull of that little trigger and is surprisingly sturdy for one of these armrest tray tables. Above that is two of the 787's dimming windows. Say what you want about them, but I've decided that I am not a fan. Between the weird filter it puts on things and the ability to be locked, I've decided that I prefer the window shade style instead. In front is the bulkhead with a moving map TV. These seats have plenty of legroom considering that I'm 5'9" for scale. The literature pocket is in a slightly bad place just because with my feet up I find myself accidentally kicking or messing with the things in here. Then is the leg rest, one of the biggest things that I find helps me sleep regardless of the seat itself. This is one of the reasons I prefer the bulkhead is the type of leg rest. You'll see in the other seats, the footrest is mounted to the seat in front of it. The bulkhead, however, has this whole piece that rises up, which makes it more of a leg rest in addition to a footrest that can all be raised using the buttons with the seat. The TV is one of the drawbacks of the bulkhead, as it has to be on its own arm and secured for takeoff and landing as opposed to being on the seat back. The screen itself is a great size and quality, it's just that the location kinda sucks. To my right, next to the buttons, is the remote that controls the TV and the reading light. Above that is a little divider between the two seats. You've got a little countertop that can only really fit a phone or maybe a drink. The armrest behind that is rock hard, but it does flip up to access the space below it, which includes a universal charging and USB port, along with the headset jack and a somewhat large area for in-seat storage. And before the cool inaugural stuff, I gotta give some love to the overhead air vents. As far as the inaugural swag that we got, first off was this fun little keychain double-sided to celebrate the flight. Then was the postcard, one side with the same decoration that we saw around the airport signage for the flight. Then another little slip of paper with similar decoration but in a style I'm assuming meant to resemble a boarding pass. I was surprised to see a menu for these seats, still with the inaugural decorations. In the past when I flew Premium Plus, there was no menus. Granted, it has been probably about 10 months. I do like my growing collection of these large cards they hand out. I got this one packed with my Manila and Dubai ones. I also loved having one of the teddy bears that I thought was just for Polaris, along with one more pin attached to the bear's shirt. While the Polaris amenity kits I feel like were downgraded with the switch to Therabody, the Premium Plus ones seem to have been upgraded in a big way. Not only is the bag a nicer quality, but it also includes most things that you'd find in business class, even with lotions and dental kits. We also got the same throw blanket that Polaris customers received, not only in a fun design, but also made from recycled materials. I do find it to be nicer than the last blanket that was replaced a few months ago. We also received the Saks Fifth Ave pillow that Polaris customers get. Unfortunately, no gel pillow, but getting this one is a huge win. The noise-canceling headphones are also the same as Polaris, which is awesome because last time I flew Premium Plus, we were given the same cheap headphones that economy customers got. Perhaps the worst thing about this seat, though, is that I can see the Polaris cabin from here, so throughout the flight it felt like being taunted by the meal trays, champagne, and hot towels. With pushback upon us, our bulkhead TVs were locked in place, and the famous Rhapsody in Blue played us off. Now, COVID obviously injured the international aviation markets beyond recognition, but now that air travel has bounced back, it's been excellent seeing the boom that airlines have gone through. Airlines seem more willing than ever to dip their toes into new waters and test them out, meaning we've seen what feels like a record number of inaugural flights. But we have seen airlines try and fail in certain markets, for example, Norse launching SFO to Gatwick, only to make it LAX to Gatwick instead a few months later. It's not that I'm seeking out United inaugurals specifically, even though this is my third one this year on top of my Atlantic Airways inaugural, but United has significantly improved their international portfolio recently. I've decided that one of my New Year's resolutions will be to try out other airlines' inaugurals next year so we can see what the worldwide inaugural parties look like. Let me know what inaugurals you'd like to see next year as I start to shape up my next year of adventures while also trying to not just become solely an inaugural channel, as fun as that might be. Quick speed run through the entertainment since I've covered it plenty in this channel's history, but United has one of, if not my favorite, in-flight entertainment systems. No shortage of movies and TV shows, the TV shows even having a large number of episodes. They were also able to sort them well enough that even with a collection this large, it didn't feel overly crowded. And with the search and favorite features, it's easier to find things. The map is also one of my favorites, able to be adjusted however you need. And lastly, instead of turning the TV off, which you still can do if you want, you can put it in a relax mode to play relaxing or calming background while you sleep, work, relax, or whatever. And if you just want it off, you can also choose to leave a message if you want to be woken for meal services or not. Due to our departure being so late in the day, they wasted no time getting the dinner service started so we could get some sleep. US airlines get knocked for their meal services typically, and while they still have a ways to go, especially in business class, this was probably the best meal I've had on United through the years. It was a French chicken breast with charred lemon, garlic polenta, and root vegetables in a tarragon sauce, alongside a little garden salad and some chocolate truffles. It was incredibly tasty, probably made better by the fact that I hadn't really eaten anything in 24 hours. All said and done, I was finished with my meal and everything and was ready to prep for sleep on this 13-hour flight only about an hour and 15 minutes after departure. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi wasn't working, which meant that they had to reboot the entire system, something I've had on a few of my United 787 flights recently. This seat only has a few simple adjustments, as you can see the space I have to work with. From there, I can raise the leg rest before unfolding the footrest, which can be extended for people with longer legs, both of which are only in the bulkhead seats. Then the seat can be reclined to a generous amount, maybe not as comfortable as a lie flat, but plenty comfortable for some sleep. Earlier this year, as a matter of fact, I flew home from Dubai via Tel Aviv, and on the flight from Tel Aviv to San Francisco in Premium Plus, I was able to get 13 hours of basically uninterrupted sleep. So it's really not that bad, actually. Good morning. There's people around me talking kind of loud, so they woke me up after about 7 hours of sleep. At this point, we were about 4 hours from Christchurch, and the sun had completely risen, although you couldn't tell from the dimmed window. First stop when I woke up was the lavatory. One thing about United, whether it be at plus or minus, is that the restrooms in all cabins are almost identical. The Polaris Labs do have some amenities that the others don't, but the colors and finishings are the same. The size even feels comparable, even if it is just a little bit smaller. After that, I went to the aft galley to hang out with others who were stretching their legs. They had a snack basket and all sorts of drinks for people looking to snack up mid-flight. I grabbed a couple things for when I returned to my seat. With a couple hours until breakfast, I got some work done at my seat, where you can see that the tray table is plenty large and sturdy enough, except that with my laptop out, Straight Outta Compton was almost completely blocked, which proved to be counterintuitive to my drive to get work done, as I kept closing my laptop to watch scenes of my favorite movie. Once the lights in the cabin were brought up, I slowly undimmed the window to let in more of the natural sunlight from outside, while more and more people woke up and brightened their windows, therefore the cabin. Between the breakfast options of eggs and pancakes, I chose the pancakes, and I'm glad I did. I thought they were great, mostly because of the berries and bananas, although I put too much syrup on them. My fault, not theirs. The croissant was alright, but it was kinda cold and hard. The fruit and yogurt were good though, and the black tea was enough to tie it all together and help me wake up for the day. With breakfast collected, we were about an hour and a half from Christchurch, as we were expecting a bumpy arrival, and so they wanted to prep the cabin a bit early. We also received a couple notes from the cabin crew. This first one was for all passengers, although they were a little short, so they were passing out one per group. Also, as a 1K passenger, I was given this handwritten card from the purser, an excellent little touch, knowing that they take care of the people who fly their airline frequently. With the islands in sight, just out of my sight, we began our descent and arrival into an apparently rainy Christchurch. And as we make our descent, I want to say that on my travels, but especially on these inaugurals, I meet a ton of cool people. I enjoy meeting people from around the world, but especially those of you who have watched my videos. Give me a follow on Instagram with the username in the caption, @PatrickFliesPlanes, where I try to write back to everyone so we can chat about all these things, and hopefully I'll be able to meet some of y'all on a flight in the future. When we talk about recent growth and success amongst US carriers, we've seen a good amount of European growth, but the Oceania growth has been exciting as well. At the time of this route's launch, we see Delta and American flying to Sydney and Auckland from LAX and Dallas respectively. United has had even more success due mostly to its trans-Pacific strategy, as you'll find Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane serve now from both SFO and LAX, with Houston thrown into Sydney as well, in addition to Auckland and now Christchurch from SFO. And if you count it, they also have the Tahiti service, as does Delta. Not only have routes been added in the last couple of years, but they seem to be successful considering that the frequency of the existing ones were increased as well. For example, Brisbane was a 3 times weekly service from SFO, but has now been increased to daily, and LAX has added their own United service there, in addition to the Qantas route already serving these cities. Long story short, the more unique routes the world gets, the more interesting the aviation markets become and more travel is inspired. Let me know down in the comments, what is a non-stop flight you'd like to see added to the world?
Anything else? Better be pretty good cough syrup.
Yeah.
I know.
My favorite airport is Atlanta, Georgia.
those small airports. They're kind of fun. I always like the ones that were kind of outside, like Hawaii. Has the outdoor parts. Palm Springs, same thing.
Yeah.
Welcome to Christchurch, New Zealand. It was another wonderful inaugural, each one with their own little touch from the local culture still. As we taxi to our gate, keep an eye out for what seems like 1,000 people here for our arrival, lined along the airport fences, all on the tarmac, including a water cannon salute and a helicopter that followed us in for some arrival footage. In the meantime, however, I want to take a second to talk about the value of United's Premium Plus, since we have all but completed discussing this new route and United's growth. Premium economy is a fun debate in the aviation world, as some airlines make it barely better than economy but charge twice as much or more sometimes. I don't think United falls into this group, however. Now, it is fair to say that at times United's Premium Plus can be much more expensive than their normal economy depending on the flight, but they definitely are able to justify that value more so than other carriers. I've found on other airlines that the premium economy product is really just economy service and experience, but with a slightly better seat. United, however, seems to view it the other way around. Essentially, the thought process seems to be more like, let's take the business class product and then reduce a few things to make it a more affordable experience. So you don't get a lie flat seat, you don't get the privacy of a 1-2-1 setup, you don't get as extensive of a menu or as personal of a service, but you do still have far nicer meals than economy class. You still have a little private 3-row cabin of only premium economy. Not to mention you still have some of the best parts of the bedding, only excluding the comforter and the gel pillow. I'd say the value is definitely there if you're looking for something better than economy but you find yourself priced out of business class. Lastly, the bulkhead seats. There are a couple drawbacks, such as the location of the literature pocket and TV, especially it having to be put away for takeoff and landing. I, however, view the leg rest as a feature that trumps all of that. I feel that having the leg rest footrest combo makes this seat far more comfortable than the other 2 rows of seats, so I guess you can take that as my United Airlines recommendation of the day. And the last thing that I'll leave y'all with is that while inaugural flights are fun, there's a definite learning curve to operating a new route and especially a new city. I think we may have experienced one of these on arrival. Essentially, there's a health and customs declaration form that's needed. You can also use the app, but it has to be done ahead of time. There was apparently forms before immigration, but if you go to the automated gates for US passports, it's possible to completely miss them. That's what got me and many others sent to extra screening to complete customs checks. On a lot of United routes to places like this, they'll give you the forms before arrival to have you all set to proceed through customs. Maybe that's something they'll get figured out now that the first flight's all done and settled. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the newest inaugural flight journey, and hopefully I get a chance to see some of you guys at next year's inaugurals. But until next Sunday though, safe travels, and I'll see y'all next time.